Hey everyone, it's Aviation Buff. Today I wanted to talk about the Boeing C-97 Stratofreightor, an aircraft I have a huge fascination with. So stay tuned. I've always had a huge fascination with the Boeing C-97 Stratofreightor. I'm not sure why. Probably because I like Cold War aircraft, and I particularly like the big sticks of the Cold War. We're talking about large airplanes from the Cold War because there was a lot of unique, interesting, large aircraft built during the Cold War, particularly in the 1950s. And I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about a little brief history on the C-97. Not everything, but a brief history. The C-97 is indeed a favorite aircraft of mine. It's a large, ungainly, an interesting aircraft that had lots of variants, and that adds an interest to me. The C-97 family of aircraft are really forgotten today, and I'm not really sure why. Is it because it looks like a boring, mundane aircraft? Is it because some think it's ugly and just overlook it? But honestly, there is nothing really mundane about this aircraft. If you look at this photo, you can kind of come to the realization that this aircraft had a lot of jobs to do. Wow, look at all those C-97s in the boneyard. There are a lot of them. And I think this photo speaks volumes into how big a job the C-97 had and how important the aircraft was. But yet today it's very forgotten aircraft. This aircraft was important during the Cold War, and it had a lot of jobs to do. It was the backbone for the military airlift operations and the backbone for air refueling operations. If you could ask yourself, what images do you see in your head when you think about the Cold War? Aircraft like the B-52 instantly come to mind. The C-97 should too also come to mind, as it was everywhere during the Cold War. The C-97 hauled troops, medical supplies, and military equipment to every corner of the planet. The KC-97s refueled our fighter aircraft and bomber aircraft so they could stay airborne longer, to be ready and able for a quick response in case of an attack from the enemy. The job of being able to keep aircraft airborne without having to land for fuel was important, and it was a huge part of deterrence. The first XC-97s were derived mainly from the B-29 Superfortress, and they were powered by the R-3350 radial engines. But the C-97 aircraft needed more upgrades, so adaptations from the Boeing B-50 were taken and put into the rest of the C-97 production. This gave the production C-97s the R-4360 radial engines, an enlarged tail, refined firewall and cowling area, and other changes, giving it a unique, distinctive look. A total of 888 C-97s were built. That is a lot of aircraft. Of these, 811 were the KC-97 air refueling tanker version. A further 56 Boeing 377 Stratocruisers were built for commercial airline services. During its service career, some C-97s were converted to KC-97 tankers, and some KC-97 tankers were converted to C-97 freighters, making research of particular C-97 airframes a bit confusing. The C-97 saw production from 1944 till 1956, and saw service from 1944 until 1978, when the last were retired from Air National Guard units. A few saw firebombing service for a limited time. Some saw service during the Berlin airlift. Several were converted to Super Guppy aircraft that would airlift parts of rockets for NASA and carry other large cargo. NASA actually still uses one Super Guppy, heavily modified using turboprops in place of the original radial engines. The only other stock C-97 flying today is flown by the Berlin Airlift Foundation, who recently restored a KC-97G to flying condition. Several other C-97 derelict aircraft have come up for sale in the last 5 years. Most C-97s are on static display throughout the U.S. at museums, parks, and gate guards. I really like the C-97, and I wish more were saved and more were flying. They are a great part of the Cold War aviation history, and on an added note, they look great in day-glow paint schemes. A lot of C-97 photos show them in the day-glow paint scheme that was prevalent on U.S. military aircraft from 1958 to about 1962, 1963, when day-glow was faded out on aircraft. Here is a list of units, U.S. military units, that used this KC-97. Look at all the units that used it. It's a long list. From Strategic Air Command using them, to MATs, to Air National Guard units. The C-97 flew with many units, and it's amazing how many units used the C-97. Versions. The principal versions of the KC-97 were the KC-97E, the KC-97F, the KC-97G, and the KC-97L. The KC-97L was the last model, and they were converted from KC-97Gs. And the KC-97L is the most obvious version, as it had two J-47 jet engines in pods, one under each wing. The other earlier versions had drop tanks, one under each wing. Versions. The KC-97A. 3 KC-97As were built. The KC-97E was the first major production run of the KC-97. 60 were built. The KC-97E is probably one of the most forgotten versions. The next version was the KC-97F. Had upgraded engines and minor changes. 159 were built. Some were converted to C-97F cargo versions. And actually the KC-97F is probably my favorite version because it's probably the most forgotten version built. The KC-97G, 592 were built, the most versions built of the KC-97. They had a dual-role aerial refueling and cargo transport aircraft, meaning the aircraft could play the role of both air refueling and cargo aircraft. There is a few oddity versions like the EC-97G. 3 were converted for use for the Central Intelligence Agency. Several KC-97Gs were converted to C-97Gs for transport versions. 135 were converted. There was a GKC-97G. 5 KC-97Gs were used as ground instructional airframes. There was a JKC-97G. One aircraft was modified to test the underwing General Electric J-47 GE-23 jet engine, and was later designated the KC-97L. The HC-97G version, which were KC-97Gs converted for search and rescue, 22 were converted. There was one KC-97H version converted into a hose and drogue refueling aircraft. The C-97K, 27 KC-97Gs were converted to troop transports. And last but not least, the KC-97L. 81 KC-97Gs modified with 2 J-47 turbojet engines under each wing in pods. Today we remember the Boeing C-97 Stratofreightor, a large aircraft that saw service during the Cold War. It was everywhere, and it was an important part of protecting the United States. Thank you for everyone for watching my video. Please like and subscribe. Till next time. Bye.